Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness and American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk today about knowing your enemy. First, I want to, before I get into that, I want to welcome all the new subscribers, both here and over on Patreon. You are joining what I think is probably the most intelligent, the smartest bunch of subscribers and commenters on YouTube. And if you just hang around and get involved and read some of the comments, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you want to know what we do over on Patreon, everything that I put up here, I put on Patreon, and extra. Some one of the most popular series I put up over there are Lessons from the Godfather. And then we put up music and some videos from other places and all sorts of things that you may not see other places and that you will want to see if you're serious about either preparedness or getting ready for the fight of what's coming, things like that. I do tend to put things honestly to give you all, you new people, just a sense of what you might find here. I have a tendency not to sugarcoat things. People who want things sugar-coated, there's plenty of places to go for that. If you just want to be scared on a daily basis on things that you can't do anything about, there's plenty of places for that. If you just want to be told to buy a whole bunch of new doodads, there's other places for that. I tend to put out the truth. A lot of people don't like that. And I put it fairly straight. I hurt somebody's feelings yesterday on a video that I put up. What was it about? Gosh, I don't know. Oh, yeah, the cost of fear. The cost of fear. And I was talking about, well, go back and watch it if you want to. And I hurt somebody's feelings. And they came back and they said, boo-hoo, this is just, this is, you shouldn't be saying things like this. And they went a little bit farther than that, so they got blocked. I don't let a bunch of boo-hooing on here and things like that, and that's why we have such a smart population of commenters. So if you're new here, welcome to that. I hope that you enjoy it here, and I hope that you're the kind that gets something out of this, and you'll contribute as well. Anyway, I was going to talk today about the real enemy that I don't think a lot of people really understand, but something came up that made it a perfect precursor for that. And so I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to make the other one. No, and this one is going to be knowing your enemy. In the next one, I'm going to be talking about what the real enemy is. And it's not all these different little things that most people think. One person, we know what's going on there. When I was getting ready to make that one, something popped up on my Facebook from the son of a very dear friend of mine. Now, my friend has passed. He passed last year. His name was Jim Harrison. He is a legend in the martial arts. Now, if you haven't heard of him, that's understandable. He didn't make movies. Now, some of you more serious people out there, if you've been in the martial arts for any length of time, or if you were, real serious butt kicker strata, you probably know about Jim. I consider him a spirit brother, and I don't mean that in the sense of Native American shamanism or anything like that. There was probably nobody that I ever knew that was more aligned with me as far as things. I'll just put it that way. If like I say, many of you may not have heard of him. He was. But those who you have heard of, those who are the legends, he was a legend to them. Chuck Norris said one time that Jim Harrison saved his life one time by stopping a punch an inch from his nose. Bruce Lee said that there were only two men that, although he wasn't afraid of anybody, there was two that he wouldn't want to meet in a street fight, and one was Mike Stone, and the other was Jim Harrison. Matter of fact, Jim is the one who really showed Lee the results of using, or how to properly use, nunchucks against real resistance. And Lee wasn't at the time really. He was very good at it, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, when I saw this pop up on YouTube, it was a story and a picture from one of Jim's sons about a trick that Jim used to do, and he'd fill a beer bottle up with gasoline and put a candle next to it, a lit candle next to it, and then he'd come through with a knife hand and he'd break that beer bottle. He'd hit it so hard and so fast he'd bust that beer bottle, and then of course all of the gasoline inside would be lit up with that candle, and it made a great picture, you know. Don't do that. I mean, it's very dangerous. Don't do that. But I was telling Kelly about some of the things that Jim would do, and I was telling her about a story years and years and years ago. He was doing a kind of a promotion, a demonstration. I'm not sure where it was, but it was to promote his dojos. This was back in his early days, and our earlier days. He was going to break, you know, these big concrete blocks. I'm not sure what they're called, but they put them up. I can't stretch my arms out here enough for you to see it, but they put them in parking lots. You know, the big concrete things that so that your tires don't go too far. You know, they're about, I don't know, 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 feet, something like that. You know, big concrete blocks. Well, he was gonna bust one of those, and so they had it all lined up, and he was doing his thing, and he was explaining to people the powers of karate and everything like that. And so he got up there, and it was time he was going to break this. Everybody breaks bricks, right, and boards, but Jim was different, and he was going to break this big parking block. So he gets up there, and he gets ready. And I'm not sure. I'm not a traditional karateka. Karateka. Some people, you know, however you want to say it. I didn't go through the entire traditional systems. That's another story too. So I'm not sure what they call it, but they were going to come down. I think he was going to do it with essentially a palm heel. And so he got ready, and he got ready, and of course the crowd's already right, and he came down and he hit that thing as hard as he could, and he said he just felt pain just explode up his arm, and thought he'd broken his hand, and he probably did, but it put a little bitty crack in that whatever that thing's called. Well, he knew that he had to keep going. He's got this big crowd around, you know. He was trying to promote his dojo, and so he probably never let it, you know. I'm sure he kept the same look on his face while his arm was being destroyed. He probably just went, and so he came back. He knew he had to hit it again. So he came down and he hit it again. And that thing cracked a little bit more. And he said the pain just shot up through his whole body. But he wasn't going to stop. And, you know, he was looking around and he was getting mad and that thing wasn't breaking. It didn't matter how much. Now, you know, Jim had a pain tolerance that you wouldn't even call high. I mean, it's off the charts. And I've told another story about him, which I won't. You'd understand. But he came back and he said he had to hit that thing again. And so he came back, couldn't even feel his arm anymore, he said. And he came down and he hit that thing again. And right then the whole thing cracked, but it just kind of sagged. And I think it was Tom Whiteman, who was one of his students, who Jim said was one of the toughest men he'd ever known, came up to him and said, Jim, I think it's got rebar in it. Well, if that's not a lesson, I don't know what is. And the lesson is know your enemy. You know, we have a lot of things going on right now. We have a lot of people saying we ought to do this and we ought to do that. But if you don't know your enemy, if you didn't know that rebar's in that block, you're kind of setting yourself up. And what you think is going to work may not work. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that because I think the lesson is pretty clear. Before we go into a situation, before we go up against what we say we want to go up against, we need to have a total understanding of what it's made of. And then that's going to give us a better idea of how to defeat it. We go up there without knowing, unpleasant things could happen. Okay, now I'm going to shut this down and I'm going to make this other video, but this is a lesson that stands alone. So you all think about that. Think about before you go out against anything, make sure that you understand what it's made of and how you really want to approach it. Okay. You all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And for the people on the American Reversion site, remember that America needs a reversion and it needs you to be a part of it. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.